Welcome once again to another episode of How to Have Outrageously Awesome Employees. I am your host, Randy Starr, and today we have a guest. And our guest is Ann Addesso. She's with Ube Machinery Incorporated. I've known Ann for quite some time, and she's completely and totally awesome herself. So we're going to hang out with her for just a little bit and ask some questions and get some insight from her. Ann, how are you doing today?
I am doing absolutely fabulous, Randy. And
super.
Thank you for kind words. I truly appreciate that.
Sure. I mean, you are, and you know it.
Oh, come on.
So the whole idea here is to give everybody an idea, an insight into human resources professionals. So you've been doing this for a while. You have a great background, but could you please explain to the callers your background, what you've done in the past, and what you're currently doing?
So this is actually my second career, and I don't even think you know that, Randy. I worked in a hospital before I got into the human resources profession. Totally unrelated field. However, you're still dealing with people, and your people are ultimately, the customers. The patients are ultimately the customers of the service that you're providing in a hospital. Same is true with the hotel industry, which I spent the majority of my time in. And by default, ended up in human resources, loved it, and decided to pursue it. And that's where I spent the majority of my time when I was in the hospitality industry. I'm now working at a local manufacturing company and doing human resources. And it's a Japanese company, so it's a lot different than working for an American company. And there's a lot of differences with the organization structure that takes a while to understand. But it's been a challenge, and it's been exciting.
Well, challenges is what keep us on our toes.
Absolutely.
So you're right. I did not know that you were in hospitals, so I have to ticky mark, learned something new today. And you did mention that you went to school for hotels, so that's kind of like what, a motel management type?
I went to Eastern Michigan University, and my major was in hotel and restaurant management, but my major was in business management.
Okay, so that was your original career path, but you ended up in human resources. What was it about human resources that was so interesting that you chose that route?
Well, it allowed me the opportunity to work closely with our internal customers at the hotel, which are employees. And I started working for Marriott, and Marriott had a great philosophy. You need to take care of your employees. And if you take care of your employees will take care of your guests. Right. And so I really, truly, even to this day, believe in that philosophy. It gives you an opportunity to understand employees and also help them understand how they can actually resolve some of their own issues. So you take them by the hand, you listen to them, and you say, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And then the last thing is it also allows you to be a cheerleader. And so, you're always rah-rah. You always try to get people engaged in what you're doing. Even if it's something that is silly or stupid, you still want to have fun at work. And I think that is the most important thing when you're in human resources, is you wear all these different hats, but then you also have an opportunity to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's got to be the best part of human resources. I mean, doesn't everybody that works for a company that has a human resources department, don't they just love HR? I mean,
well, I guess it could depend on your perspective and how you do your job, or if you're going to see the principal because you've done something wrong.
Yeah, well, this is true too. So Tell us a story about one of your greatest accomplishments as a human resources professional.
Well, I actually have two things that I thought of. The first one was, as you mentioned before, I started out in hotels and had my degree in hotel and restaurant management, and I kind of segued into human resources. And when I found that I loved human resources, I went ahead and I committed to studying for my professional and human resources certificate. And so that's one of my greatest accomplishments, is actually achieving that status, my certification as a professional in human resources. I've actually decided to take the next challenge and go for my senior certification with the Society for Human Resource Management. So I'm currently in a class to study for that, and hopefully that. And then the second one is a little bit more personal, or professional, personal and professional, I guess, is what you would call it, is actually when I worked for Crescent Hotels and Resorts at the property when I first started out. I worked at the Livonia Marriott, and we did our initial survey. And my general manager was a great guy, and he said, we have to do something with these results from the Associate Opinion Survey. And so we used your post survey guide, and we went through and we identified areas that we needed to work on, areas that we were good in. We held meetings and brainstormed with our employees and came up with an action plan to improve our AOS. And once you know it, the next year, our AOS scores went up, and we were recognized by Crescent as having the most improved Associate Opinion Survey score for the company, the entire company.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Because they're not a small company. It's not like you just beat out one other hotel.
No, they have grown over the years, but I think we won the award. We had probably about 50 to 60 properties.
Yeah, that's a good feather in your cap, and it's amazing what a little bit of work in the right areas will accomplish.
Absolutely. And it's listening to your employees, and also your employees knowing that you are going to follow up on what you say. You're not just talking to them, they're actually seeing the plan in progress and making progress at the property.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What do you do to help, and currently, not just in the past, but now, with the employees that you have access to or work with, what do you do to help them grow, either personally or professionally?
Well, I think a lot of it is getting to know employees. And where I work right now, we have a production area and we have an office area. And it's really important to make contact with people in both areas because they're both important and they both have an important part to play in the success of the business. And so I'm always out there encouraging employees to come and see me if they have an issue, come and see me if they have a question about their benefits. We do a lot to encourage feedback here. So when I came on board here, they asked me to do an onboarding or create onboarding survey. So it's keeping in touch with them after they hire on to say, hey, how's it going? Is there anything that we could be doing better? What feedback can you give me about your job? Did we portray during the interview process your job accurately? Can we update the job description? So encouraging the feedback and ideas to make improvement on our existing processes. Also, as I mentioned, you're always asking for feedback, but as the person receiving the feedback, you have to make sure that you're actively listening to what the employees are saying to you. And that's not interrupting, that's actually listening to them, taking notes, and letting them know that you understand what their concerns are, or, hey, that's a great idea. Maybe we're going to go ahead and implement that. And, having them learn, showing them something new, having them take the initiative to be able to, again, resolve their issues.
Yeah, amazing. It's interesting that you mention actively listening. It's been a topic of discussion between myself and a client of ours who has communication issues, and they're denying the fact that they have communication issues. And then when you sit down and you evaluate it, it's because they don't listen. They think communication is a one-way street. They're pumping out content to their employees, which is a good thing, but then when they get that feedback, it's just falling on deaf ears because they're not paying attention. So then they create this illusion in their own mind that they have a great communication process, which they do as far as the output goes, but they have no way to receive it. So they've created some challenges, but that's a huge topic, actively listening, making sure, and you obviously are someone who believes in managing by wandering around. If you're out talking.
If you don't know what people are doing on a day-to-day basis, and you don't know how one position interacts with another, and how everybody contributes to make the end product, you're not going to understand the strategies of the business, and understand, people in general. Everybody is so different. And that's what I think about human resources, is that it allows you for a different opportunity on a day-to-day basis, because you're interacting with different people, different personalities, and it just makes it dynamic.
Yeah, it's fun. People are fun.
They are.
So, speaking of people, tell us about a time that you've helped an employee overcome a challenge.
And this goes back to my corporate position when I worked at Crescent. I was a regional HR person, and I had a couple of local or property level HR representatives that were struggling. And so it's hard to have those conversations with those people over the phone. And so I really, the general manager at the property really helped coordinate some of the phone discussions that we needed to have about the human resource person's lack of ability or weaknesses. And so it's tough being the person to deliver that message, but then also having to be their mentor. But I encourage them to contact me, set up weekly meetings with them, and we set aside an hour a week, and we went over any challenges that they were having. And then, it's just guiding them through and helping them. And so I would say, okay, you have this disciplinary action that you have to write. Go ahead and take a stab at it, send it to me, and then I will call you and we'll go over the verbiage in it. And maybe it was the person was being too subjective, and in going through the options for more objective language or verbiage in that. So it kind of took all that personal feeling out of it. So that was probably the most challenging thing, was having those conversations, difficult conversations. But then, you know what? They actually, a couple of them turned their performance around, and they were superstars after that. So, while it was, a challenge, it was also a success. And that's kind of how I look at challenges. Challenges can either continue to be a challenge, or you can be successful at resolving them.
That is awesome.
Great.
But you're so right. Those challenging conversations, we tend to find other things to do. Oh, I'm too busy.
Never, I have people that come up to my desk. I work in this is a very unique situation. I don't have a defined office for an HR person.
Really?
I'm in an open office. And so I always have people coming up and asking me, do you have a minute? I always tell them I have several minutes. So yes.
That's great. That is great. What do you think is the most important training that you can deliver or give to employees?
You know what? I can give them structured training, but I think the most important training that they receive on a daily basis is just their on-the-job training, and taking what they a challenge that they haven't encountered before, and being able to resolve that, and then know what to do in the future. Resolving it proactively. And so I think on-the-job training is an awesome training. I think that that's how adults learn best, is by actually getting their hands on it and being able to put a practical to some of the concepts that are taught. We offer here lunch and learn opportunities, and we've had our 401k people come in, and we've had financial literacy people come in, and our payroll company has an HR representative that does training, and she's come in, and I've delivered some training. So we do these unique opportunities where they can actually lunch and learn at the same time. And I think, the more relevant your training in is, and the more just in time it is, I think that it sticks with people more. And so there's not really one training method that I use. I use a variety of them, because everybody learns differently.
So the financial people that you brought in, or that come in that do training, that's not for their job. That's just for them.
Life training.
Right.
That's life training. That's giving them some life tools to use. And I don't think companies do enough of that. We're going to do a benefits lunch and learn. And so we've asked our broker to contact the carriers, and the carriers are going to come in and they're going to bring, their swag. But additionally, they're going to talk about wellness. Not only are we going to talk about the benefit plans and open enrollment, but we're going to do some wellness training as well. And we're lucky here. Our 401k vendor is a local. Our funds are through a local bank here, and so they have those types of financial literacy folks that will come out and do. We did a 529, which is an education fund. We did a lunch and learn on that because people were interested in saving for college. So we did something like that for our employees.
So, and I know this is getting off of the agenda here, but this is interesting, and this can help people. How did you find out that you had employees that were interested in 529?
Actually, I did sort of a little survey, and we talked during some other lunch and learns about some of the other options that people might be interested in. And I just kind of walked around and said, hey, if we did something like this, would you sign up? And then I posted flyers, and I said, anybody who's interested, let me know. Lunch is included, and we ordered lunch, and they came in and they brought the materials, and it was great. So I solicit feedback from my employees to say, hey, how often would you like to have lunch and learns? What relevant topics would you like to learn about? And it's not just related to their job. It could be, 401k or college planning, or how to put a budget together, how to apply for a house loan, things like that, things that are helpful to them in their everyday lives. Some of this is not taught, and people don't know where to access this type of training or learning, and so we like to make sure that people get that. And I'm lucky we are the size of the company that I work for, this particular location, we have approximately 60 employees. So it makes it really intimate, and you get to know your employees. So it's a little bit different than working for a large hotel management company.
Right, but you have the small, and this is a challenge that a lot of companies have, and especially right now in hospitality. They start small with, say, a dozen hotels, and everybody at the corporate office, which may be 5 or 6 people, they know everybody. They know the employees at the hotels because they may have gone there to help them open. But now we're in this enormous growth phase, and they're adding hotels by the dozens every month. I mean, we have clients that have gone from 30 or 40 hotels 4 or 5 years ago now that have over 150 hotels now.
Yeah.
And they are challenged because they've never done that before. So they don't know how to do it. Everybody wants to grow. And if you haven't been in an organization that's had rapid growth before, you don't know how to do it, and you don't know what to expect. You think you do, but then all of a sudden, boom, life hits you, and you've got all these people that look to you as the corporate resource, but you're so stretched, and they don't have that intimacy, and that they had before, and they struggle with how to keep it. But you've hit so many of the topics that would help them, and that's, you have to know your employees. And I have so many people that say, but Randy, I'm so busy. And I have one response to the I'm so busy. Mr. Marriott had 500 hotels, and he visited each hotel once a year minimum while he was running a company that large. I'm pretty sure he was busier than most people that tell me that they're busier, but yet he had time to go. And I was at a hotel that he visited once as an employee, and I was a front desk clerk. And he walked in, and I'd only been working there for a couple of months. I was like, oh my gosh, the big guy's coming.
Right?
And he was like the most normal, everyday person with me that you would expect. Walked up, shook hands, introduced himself, asked a couple of questions of everybody's all huddled around, it was amazing. But I'm pretty sure he was a lot more busy than most people say. I'm too busy, I don't have time to walk down and spend time with my employees. I don't buy that. Obviously, you have time to walk down and visit your employees, and I think we all should probably make time to do that. So I think you've probably touched on this a couple of times, but tell us about your typical day, if you have one.
I guess I do have the typical portions of the day. It doesn't always go in the same direction. I always make it a point to bring my lunch to work, and that's kind of a twofold. One, because I'm a health freak, and the other is because I like to sit in the break room with all the employees that bring their lunch and just kind of chat with them to get to know them a little bit more personally. And it also sends the message that, just because I'm in human resources doesn't mean that I'm not touchable. I like to be approachable. And so that's one of the things that I like to do. So when I get in, I usually boot up my computer, take a look at, my emails, kind of walk around, say hi to folks. Sometimes I have interviews planned. Sometimes I have projects planned. I've done a lot of projects since I've been at this particular company, updating handbooks, policies, getting, doing job descriptions, just the normal everyday HR stuff. But then there are some days that I get to come in and I get to do the fun stuff, like the lunch and learns and getting those set up. We're doing a holiday meal here, getting the break room set up. Once a month I go into the break room and I pull everything down from the previous month and put stuff up for the next month. So it's, anniversaries and a fun calendar with what day is today. It's like daily holiday blog or whatever it is, but they have a monthly calendar that tells you what the day is. And so I do things like that. And so I'm really, really lucky that I work in such a good environment, and the culture here is great. Our vision is one team, one purpose, and so we're always acting together and supporting each other and collaborating. And I think that that's really important. When you're trying to create a positive work environment within the company that you work for. So no, I don't have a typical day. I'm promoting safe work environment. I'm policy procedures. Sometimes on some of the I would say 5% of my time is spent doing the not so much, the disciplinary kind of stuff, but 95% is, that positive employee stuff. So it makes it worthwhile, definitely.
That's awesome. One team, one purpose. What a culture. That's I'm slowly falling in love with Ube Machinery Incorporated, that's for sure. There's somebody listening right now or watching this on YouTube or Facebook Live or wherever this ends up, and that person is possibly someone like you when you were going to school or right after you got out of school, and they're thinking about a career in human resources. What advice or encouragement would you give them?
Well, this is what I thought. It's always about treating others as you would want to be treated. You have to be patient and passionate. And also with human resources, there's also an ethical responsibility to make sure that things are done fairly and consistently. And when you see something that you pointed out, now just because you point it out doesn't necessarily make it that person's going to listen to you, but at least you know that you've done your job as a human resource professional to point out, what the ramifications are if they continue down that particular path. But you have to be passionate about what you do. You have to love it. And if you don't love what you do, you are just not going to enjoy it. And so you have to love working with people, because that's what human resources is. It's working with people. And you have to understand working with people is a challenge, but it's so rewarding. And that's, the really what the end result is the rewards that come with it and the recognition that you get.
That's awesome. People are so great, aren't they? We hear so much about the bad stuff that we don't hear enough about the good stuff. But people are pretty awesome in general, So that's really good. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk with me and help us out and help out whoever may listen to this. We've gotten to know you a lot better. We've gotten to know Ube Machinery better, and they sound like an awesome company. And I'm so happy for you that you're in a great environment and that you have the ability to touch the lives of other people and help them and make them become better individuals and better employees. So thanks so much, and we will conclude this episode now, and we'll see you guys the next time. Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, Randy. Have a great one.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.